Welcome to the Wedding Ware with officiating by Amanda. Welcome back to the Wedding Ware. We're going to do a little bonus today on some wedding traditions, how they've shown up, if I know anything of how they even got into our network, our realm, how they've evolved, and how I've seen some couples make them their own. Now, mind you, with any of these, you can totally shelve them. They're not needed. The only thing that's needed is 2 consenting adults, a marriage license if you would like a legal marriage, and 3 legal lines said. In the state of Pennsylvania, that's it. Well, and a me to sign it unless you get a self-uniting license, which is another whole thing. I'll have a whole episode about the Quaker license in Pennsylvania. But all the more special touches you put in, the traditions of the years gone by, they all are really good little tie-ins, even if it's not to something you necessarily believe in, because it's a little misogynistic or it's old-fashioned. Even just at times knowing it was the same thing that was done at your parents' wedding or your grandparents' weddings or your siblings or aunts, like those tie-ins of, and that's the same that it was for them. There's something really nice to that. It's almost a ritualistic process that really gives you a good common feel to it. I do have to laugh. I did a wedding a few weeks ago, and in vows, probably since early on, I have cut the word obey. Love, honor, cherish, love and cherish, love and honor. Cut the word obey. It's a personal preference. It's been a requested thing by a few couples. It's just very antiquated and old fashioned to say that you're going to obey your partner. And so I don't have it. It's not legally needed. Great. And I had a groom who'd been married for 39 years as of that day. And he's like, they didn't say obey. Oh, I had to say obey in mine. And so as we go through and as traditions change, words adjust over time to be more inclusive or more fitting, there are going to be differences over eras, and people will almost be able to pinpoint like, oh, right, we don't say that anymore. So we're going to kind of do a high level of the whole day. And these are just some. I would love to kind of dive in a little bit more and maybe do a whole episode on like the morning of and the ceremony. Gosh, I could do like 10 episodes on rituals and traditions in a ceremony. And we'll go through the reception because every part of a wedding is packed with these. And some are centuries old, some are brand new, some were found on TikTok and thought, gosh, isn't that just awesome? And are from other cultures, and others are blended, a little old and a little new. But by and large, these traditions and rituals make the wedding feel personal to the couple as they take each of these and add them in. It breathes life into them and makes them their own. So, starting out with some of the things of the morning of, like the wedding prep, the morning of, and the ceremony. So, again, a really great tradition is something old, new, borrowed, and blue for the bride. And I've seen a lot of people go and, have the spouses of the groomsmen be their something blue crew, and they ask those women to wear blue dresses. It's not a wedding color, but it's a pop out of color in the audience. It makes them feel a little special. Again, you're the significant other of a groomsman, or my gosh, why not? Why stop there? Why not make it the husband of bridesmaids? And just that's your something blue crew, so that on your dress itself, you don't have to maybe add in an additional color. Old could be really anything. It could be the veil, it could be jewelry from a family member, it could be a brooch, like Jess, our one bride story, where she had a brooch that was gifted to her that was her maid of honor's grandmother's brooch. Something new, that's easy. I mean, the number of things that couples are gifted in preparation for weddings, yeah, it's not hard to find something new to incorporate into your outfit on the wedding day. I laugh because I've had a few brides who have recently become moms, and yeah, the new was the baby. The baby's new. And then there is something borrowed. And once again, borrowed, it's more symbolic, maybe who you're borrowing it from than it is what exactly is borrowed and where it goes. Another tradition in the morning of is the sixpence in a shoe. And that refers to the old British tradition of putting a sixpence, a coin, into a bride's shoe for wealth and prosperity. I actually, for my wedding, I'm all right, full disclosure, I'm obsessed with the British royal family. I'm obsessed with all royal families and all royalty. I like things with the lineage. I'm weird. I don't care. But I I found an Etsy store that does sixpence anklets. And so I had one done in lavender. So lavender pearls, and then on the anklet was a beautiful sixpence of Queen Elizabeth II. And it was minted for the wedding date, the year, and everything. So that was really, really cool. And as much as King Charles is fine, I'm very glad that my sixpence was of the Queen because, yeah, let me see. Another tradition is the bride and groom not seeing each other before the wedding. I've seen this do all sorts of everything from we will have zero contact and we will not see each other the night before to I mean, I can see him up to the point where I get dressed because it's more of him seeing me in the dress, all different iterations of it. And it's all traditionally wise, it's all a bit of superstition of, don't see him before you're at the aisle. What if he runs back to the antiquated times where you almost like had an arranged marriage or you stole the bride? And what if the groom didn't agree? It's really not needed. It does add a fair amount of anticipation for the groom at the end of the aisle and for the bride as she walks down of, oh, he's going to see me. But I would say just think about how you would do with that, how your anxiety might be with that, or how the anxiety of your other person might be with that. Because, yeah, there's There's a lot of stress that's already going on, and if it's going to be more stress than it's worth to be separated, don't do it. I know some couples have gotten kind of in the midst, they'll do like a first touch, or they'll do shared notes or something, or they'll each send each other like a picture of just their face through text message the morning of like just knowing I'm still here, I still love you, I'm who you're gonna see at the end of the aisle. Don't you worry about it. That little touch to provide some support and some comfort can be really, really key. Let's see. So I want to move a little bit through these because, like I said, I could spend days on each of them, but I just wanted to do a little overview. So traditionally, a bride is walked down the aisle. Olden days, very misogynistic, given away. And a lot of times it's asked, who presents this woman who is giving away this woman. In fact, it's even called the giveaway for when there used to be an exchange of the bride for a goat or whatever the payment or dowry was to the family. Isn't done anymore, but it is still a really great aspect for involving family members. And I say family members instead of the father of the bride because that isn't who has to walk you down the aisle. It could be your kids. It could be your parents, both of them. It could be just your mom. It could be you yourself. It could be the best man. It could be the minister. It could be anybody you want if you want somebody at all. And so, starting with that tradition of kind of the giveaway, we I just did a wedding where the bride walked down with her dad, only to maybe about 50%. It was like a staircase and then the aisle. So dad walked her down the staircase, probably smart because, heels, dress. Yeah. But when she hit the bottom of the staircase, her dad hugged her. He went to his seat and she continued on by herself. Strong, independent woman she was. And they loved it. I got to work with the groom on when to have him turn around to get to see her. And that's really wonderful. I will do a whole episode on the times where I feel very powerful in weddings, and I love it. And when the two of them got to the front of the aisle, I had them turn around and face out, and everyone was still standing because I had them. And I asked for a group giveaway. I said, hey, the answer to this question is we are. Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready? Who is here today in celebration of this marriage? And they all yelled, we are. And it was great. And then they all sat down. And it was a group giveaway. So taking that kind of tradition of the exchange of bride for property then becomes, okay, let's involve everybody in the moment. It's not just one person. And it's no longer exchanging property as much as it is celebration and who is here for this wonderful moment, this achievement, in which case we all are. It's a really, really fun thing, and definitely a space where you can make it your own and do what you want to do with it. I could go on for days and days about unity ceremonies, and I will, and I will, and I will, and I will. But other traditions, a lot of couples think that they have to have something religious. I'm here to burst that pretty bubble. You do not. You do not need dearly beloved. You do not need God bless you. You do not need amen. You do not need First Corinthians. You don't need to do the tying of the three chords with the passage about, not going to sleep alone because you would freeze to death. Nope. If you want them, I've got a whole arsenal. I'll sprinkle them in. I'll put them in, whatever you'd like, but you do not need it. Those are all traditions that, if based upon your faith, are really wonderful add-ins. And I've got a lot of couples who it might not necessarily be their religiosity to want a Bible reading, but they know what it means to their parents or their grandparents. And so that's where we go back to kind of that. It's a ritual that now stems larger than just their wedding. It ties into the wedding that their parents had, the wedding that their grandparents had. And it's that common thread that comes down in. And that's where a lot of times I'll get a couple that will say, we're not really religious, but we want First Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind. My mom had a hanging of it at our house, or my grandparents had it in their wedding ceremony. Like it does mean something within our family. And even though we don't need the whole blessing within the Bible, we want that bit because that's a tradition that has taken on a different life and meaning to us. Let's do it. Let's go. Let me think. What are some other traditions or even just adjustments to traditions? No, bridal parties have been a far larger thing without having anybody stand up there next to you. Really awesome. I've loved seeing grandparents serve as the flower people, just like I've loved seeing bridesmen and best gals and kind of have your people and have them in the roles that make sense to them. There was one wedding I did, and the groom had like three of his best girls all on his side, and all of the guys were in these sharp black suits. These ladies looked gorgeous in these black suits. They looked phenomenal. Yeah, it was great. I kind of wish the entire bridal party, both sides, was just sharp and well-dressed ladies because they looked really, really good. And that's a personal choice. I mean, I'm sure he easily could have said to his bride, "Hey, would you mind putting them on your side? Because that's where the women stand." Or he could have had them in black dresses to match the black suits that the groomsmen were wearing. But instead, it's a, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking." And that is a spin on traditions to make it work best for the couple and make it work best for their friends and their family. So going into the reception, there's a lot of traditional things that, depending on where you're located, they might not even be traditionally. So I'm in Northeast Pennsylvania, and dollar dances are pretty big up here. And I try to say it without any sort of insinuation, but fire hall weddings, church basement weddings, typically not happening at like a country club venue, but the more, hey, hometown, or I rented, a tent in someone's yard, weddings have dollar dances where there are two buckets, one for the bride, one for the groom, and for the length of about 2 songs or so, as a guest, you can come up and pay some money, $2, $5, $10, however much you want, for a little bit of time to dance with the bride and groom, which is really nice because the day flies by. You hardly ever get to see the couple, let alone some time alone with them. But then, it could be a little creepy. People dancing after several drinks, get a little touchy. I laughed. My husband really wanted to do a dollar dance. We had seen it at a friend's wedding, and he's like, "That's so cool." Him, Mr. Anxiety. And I'm like, I work in fundraising. I do enough for money on a regular basis. I don't need to be dancing for money. But that is certainly something that I think is a little more locationally based. Can you think of any reception traditions that are really big in your area, in your vicinity? And I've seen a lot of adjustments in the last 10 years. Garters and bouquets have been very traditional. They're on their way out. You might still have a garter. It's not getting taken off your leg and tossed. Or again, it's less and less likely. Same thing with a bouquet. You're going to have a bouquet, but if you toss it, one, it's not going to be your real bouquet. And two, look at your bridal party, look at your friends. And how do you then define single? Is it you are single, single, don't have anybody, or you are just not married? There's lots of different ways. There's been first dances, couples who've been very nervous about being the center of attention have done. Like, they're dancing at the same time that their parents are dancing with each other. So kind of like a smaller couples dance, but that way it's not all on the couple. Not all eyes are on them. It really startles me sometimes just how big some weddings can be for a couple that is so shy and not wanting the limelight. I I think I probably need to dig into it a lot more to learn more, but I really am like, "Wow, okay." And yet you planned a whole wedding and you did this whole big day with a 30-minute ceremony, and you won't do a dance with just the two of you because you really don't want to be in the limelight? Certainly something to research into more. There is cake cutting, obviously, is a tradition, but not everyone eats cake. So I've seen that switched out a lot for a few other things like feeding each other cookies, or, oh my gosh, what was the one couple? The one couple did Twinkies. They each like unwrapped a Twinkie and fed each other a Twinkie. That was pretty cute. And again, do you save the top layer of your cake? Does your freezer have room for it? Did you even get a piece of your cake to know if you like your cake to want to put it into a freezer for a year? As we heard about in the episode with Verlin on The Bride Denied the Groom Cake. Certainly listen to that if you haven't. The risk with some couples about, okay, cake cutting could be a cute little nice thing and you feed each other and it's, symbolic of the two of you providing for and supporting each other, taking care of each other versus, okay, I'm going to smash cake in your face, or I'm going to deny you cake, or I swear, if anyone smashed cake in my face after I paid good money for my hair and makeup to be done, oh, would not have gone well. All in all, the traditions that are built into a wedding, even some of the ones that are a little more antiquated, are a beautiful starting off point. If you want them, put them in. If you want it just as is, as it always has been, as your grandparents had it, just click the button and say yes. If you think you might want it, you want to learn more, you want to adjust it, great. Click yes, start customizing, play it around. The one thing I will say with adjustments for things that are traditional is make those adjustments early and make sure you let people know, like your DJ, your photographer. If you want crazier things in the ceremony, your officiant, your venue person. We're all kind of trained to do things either traditionally or typically. So, for example, the couple that I had mentioned before who had a group giveaway, they let me know from pretty early on the bride's walking herself down the aisle. Awesome, cool. Because if not, I'm going to go in and start writing a script that is about the father of the bride walks the bride down. Because traditionally and typically, that's what I've seen. Now, if they were like, oh, someone will walk her down, cool. I'll just leave it that there's a individual giveaway. The more I can know earlier of something that's going to be different, unique, slightly off the standard, let me know. And same thing for like your DJ. If you aren't doing a garter and bouquet toss, let them know as soon as you can. That way they can strike it, they can make it work out. If not, if you don't let us know, we might operate on the assumption, and I know what we say about assumptions, but we might operate on the assumption that, well, yeah, it's a given, it's typical, it's traditional. We might just think you want to have it done. Photographers with first looks, or that you're not seeing each other ahead of the wedding. They might make that assumption if you don't spell out to them what you're doing that is atypical or an adjustment from tradition. No two weddings are ever going to look exactly the same. Even if you hit copy paste, it's not the same. The couple is different. And that's why I think as vendors, we need to be kind of open to, no matter how big or small that adjustment is between weddings and couples, that things are different. Words, vibes, energies, feelings, requirements, songs played. You should not be hitting copy paste. You can start off with copy paste, but then you got to edit. Make sure you make your edits. And lastly, as you personalize some of these traditions, asking what feels true to us? Are we having this just to have this? Do we want this? Do we need this? Is there going to be a picture of it? Is there going to be a video of it? Is it just a memory for us? What does it mean to us in the long run? And where does it go after the wedding? Or what is it worth after the wedding? I think about myself with the sixpence for my shoe. I'm not really a shoe person. I like the shoes I bought for my wedding. Let's just say that. But I didn't go crazy. I didn't need anything super special. I might not keep even the shoes longer than this next move. But I wanted that sixpence. But I didn't want it in a shoe because I'm like, where am I going to do that after it's in my shoe all night and I've got sweaty feet? And I even had a shoe change. I'm like, oh, this is not going to go well. Finding it on an anklet. Okay, that makes sense to me. That's a bigger win. Finding it with the queen. Huge win. Finding it with lavender pearls, which was one of the wedding colors that I didn't really get to tie in a lot of places because I did a lot more with blue. Win, 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 win. Perfect. And it's now a forever piece of jewelry versus just a sixpence. And yeah, so what feels true to you? What makes sense to you? And I'd be interested to hear, please. I know we talked more, let me know what other traditions you want me to go through and talk about. But what did you take at your wedding? Did you grab a tradition or something that was a normal ritual? How did you adjust it? Please let me know. And if you ever want to come on and tell me more about it, I would be glad to have you here. The Wedding Ware.
Thank you for listening to The Wedding Ware with Officiating by Amanda. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and found some inspiration or insight for your own special day. This podcast is hosted on Buzzsprout and can be found on all major platforms. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment, and share to help us reach even more listeners who might laugh a little at The Wedding Ware. For the links referenced in the show, visit Linktree at Officiating by Amanda. You can also follow the business on Facebook, Wedding Wire, and The Knot to stay up to date on everything going on. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on the podcast, just send an email to theweddingwarepodcast@gmail.com. And if you're ready to inquire about officiating services for your own big day, you can reach me at officiatingbyamanda@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, this has been Amanda.